Hello and welcome to Let's Review. Last week I played a rather fun little game called Skyborn that was created using the program RPG Maker. I had a reasonable amount of fun with it, so I figured, what the hey, I'll give another one of these games a go and see if that was representative of the quality. That is how I ended up playing The Clans, The Saga of the Twins, and yes, that is a very clunky title. However, shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Clunky title doesn't necessarily mean bad game. Now, to figure out whether or not it's any good, we start as we always do, with the gameplay. This game has two primary elements, the world and the combat, and the first of these is not very good.
This is the world overview of The Clans, The Saga of the Twins, and it's fairly standard for RPG Maker. You can move around using the arrow keys, but you can also control it using the mouse, if you so desire. So, for example, I could... wrong button. I could click here and go to there. Now, you will notice the little blue thing moving around, or several of them. Those are enemies. However, I'm going to try and avoid them for the moment, because I don't feel like actually getting into a fight at the moment. So you will notice that you maneuver around this forest. Not going to go over there because you can see it's a dead end. And as you can see, the movement speed is not particularly fast. This wouldn't be too annoying, but it's, you know, it can get a little irritating after a while. The controls are also a little sluggish, so it's very difficult to turn to a specific direction you want to go in a hurry. Now you'll notice those blue guys are actually following me and trying to pin me in. And I can never tell if they're doing that on purpose or if that's just a weird glitch in the AI. But I can maneuver around them quite happily because they are, of course, not very bright. And ultimately, that's kind of all there is to this world view. It mostly just amounts to avoid the enemies or engage them if you wish to do battle. And get to wherever you need to go, which is not exactly immediately obvious because the maps can be a little bit confusing and not very well laid out.
The problem with this is it's just not very interesting. It's very easy to get lost, and there's not much of interest to see. What's more, about an hour and a quarter in, I encountered a game-breaking bug that prevented me from playing any further. And before that, the combat was pretty boring as well.
The battle view of The Clans, The Saga of the Twins is pretty straightforward. So during this fight we have two characters to control. So we can use a number of different things. We could do a basic attack on one of our two enemies. We could throw a magic spell at them, which would use up some of our MP. We could use a TP attack. Now TP increases over the course of the battle and is maintained in between battles. So these tend to be particularly powerful things, such as a temporary super mode that increases your health and everything else for a little while. You can also focus, which allows you to regenerate both health and mana, but doesn't let you do anything else that turn. Or you can throw around some items, so at the moment I've got some health potions and some smelling salts to raise a downed character. However, in this fight I am going to use the mana ability Nuclear, which will target both of them after a long charge time. So I now have access to my other character, and I'm going to use her ability that deals dark damage to all enemies. Now the opponents got to attack first because they both had charge times. Now, you will notice that our guy with the white hair and the horns hasn't attacked yet because, as I mentioned, his attack has a very long charge time. However, he's still getting attacked by the enemies, so I'm going to throw a health potion at him. You kind of have to use the mouse for this a lot of the time because it can be a little uncooperative. You'll notice that that AT bar fills up over time, and when it's ready, then you go into this mode. And again, I'm just going to throw another health potion because at this point the game just gives you insane numbers of them. At the moment, all I'm really doing is waiting for his nuclear ability to go off, for the simple reason that it will pretty much kill both of these guys almost immediately. And all I've got to do is wait for it. And there it is. And it's taken both of them out. The main problem with this combat system is that it's just not very interesting. The abilities are pretty dull, and there's not exactly a lot of strategy to it. It's basically use your most powerful ability and whack them down in one hit.
The big problem with this combat is that it's incredibly repetitive. The fight I just showed you is one of about a dozen identical fights that I had in the fairly short space of time, and that was with me dodging most of the enemies on the world map. I hate to think how many times I would have had to go through the same fight over and over again if I'd actually been trying to defeat every group of bad guys. And then of course there is that game-breaking bug that I mentioned earlier.
Game? You appear to have taken control away from me. Game? Hello? Right, okay. I think the game might have glitched out. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Frankly, a bug like that is just not acceptable in a game that's selling for actual money. And I saw 3 different variants of it, each of which that prevented me from leaving that village. Overall, the gameplay is just awful. It varies between being boring and being very boring, and that's when it's not flat out broken. So ultimately, I think it's best if we just move on from the gameplay, because maybe, just maybe, the story will be better. The story for this game is actually kind of difficult to talk about, partially because, as previously mentioned, I only got about an hour and 15 minutes in before it broke, and partially because the story is an absolute joke. I had basically no idea what the hell was going on, and the closest thing the characters seemed to have to motivation was being bored. Well, to be fair, you can do something interesting with that sort of motivation, providing, of course, that the writing is strong enough. What?
Ugh, I can't stand you, my non-vampire twin sister.
What in the hell was that? That was a very early line of dialogue, and in all honesty, it's pretty representative of the quality of the writing in this game, in that it is terrible. Well, to be fair, it is probably at least so bad that it could be considered funny. Oh, the first few times, sure, but when all the writing is that bad, it pretty quickly slides from being funny bad to just painful. And yet you are the one who likes reading fan fiction that has been written by comic snicks. Oh yeah, but comic snicks kind of transcends bad to reach this singularity of awful that's just kind of amazing to see. This game doesn't get that far. It's just bad. And while it is occasionally entertainingly bad, that's certainly not enough to spend your money on. Overall, the story is just dreadful, so I think it's best if we just move on. The graphics for this game are okay. They were limited by the abilities of RPG Maker, so it was never exactly going to be spectacular, but it doesn't really do anything interesting or different. One major quibble I do have, though, why on earth can't I full screen this game? I mean, maybe it's just me, but I never feel like a game is a proper game unless I can full screen it. Though admittedly, compared to this game's other problems, that's a pretty minor quibble in the grand scheme of things, so, you know, make of that what you will. Overall, the graphics are just fine. The art is really boring. I can't say it's bad for the simple reason that it's at least competently drawn, but all the character designs are just so dull. I've seen these character designs in 100 different places, and ultimately it's just really, really unmemorable. I'm not going to say that the art is bad, because it is reasonably competently drawn, but it's just boring overall. The music for this game is pretty bad, most notably because it all seems to be on loops that last for about 15 to 20 seconds, which means that they start to grate on you really quickly. The sound effects exist. That's about as much as I can really say about them. They're really boring. Overall, the audio is just kind of dodgy at best. So, did I enjoy The Clans, the Saga of the Twins? Oh, good lord, no. Should you buy it? No. Absolutely not. Let's be honest about this. This game is a train wreck. The story is awful, the characters are bland, the gameplay is boring, and it's got several game-breaking bugs that make it impossible to finish. This is one of those times when I have no idea how this thing even got onto Steam. And frankly, at the end of the day, all I can do is strongly advise against it. The only people who might enjoy this game are the kind who like to turn up to car crashes with a picnic because they enjoy watching people in pain. Now, if you'll excuse me, I think I've come to a decision about something that I need to do. I will see you later. I'm going to do it. What? I said I'm going to do it. I'm going to fight Shah. Look, last week you said to me that I didn't have to do it, that I hadn't taken an oath or sworn a vow, that it was my choice whether or not I fought him. And that made me realise something. Do you remember the Babylon 5 I Found Her review? That was after my creation and before I joined you, but yes, I've seen the footage. Do you remember how I ended it? Off the top of my head? No, wait. Of course. You quoted the Ranger Oath. To walk in the dark places no others will enter. To stand on the bridge that no one may pass. To live for the one and to die for the one. Not bad words to live by. Except that you have no Valen, no Delenn, no Sheridan to die for. No, but there is A1. The person that Shah's coming to kill. We don't even know who that is. Does it matter? Of course it matters. You would throw away our lives for someone we've never even met. Does whoever it is have a chance against him? No. Do I? A small one at best. Well, then there's only one logical choice, isn't there? Don't even think about giving me the Star Trek needs of the many shtick. I'm not. I'm giving you our own beliefs. Those with power have a duty to those without it, and it doesn't matter if that power is political, economical, or bound up in a soul steel longsword. You said that I don't have a duty, but my heart is telling me that I do. And frankly, that's pretty hard to argue with. So, tonight, you and I are going to get drunk. And then next week, I am going to fight Shah. And with any luck, in a week and a bit, you and I are going to get drunk again. I suppose this was inevitable, wasn't it? Pretty much, yeah. Come on. First round's on me.